Good evening, and thank you for joining us for a virtual candidate forum with candidates running for Moorhead City Council Wards 3 and 4, hosted by the League of Women Voters. We appreciate you all taking the time to be here with us tonight and for being willing to pivot to a novel digital format given our circumstances. My name is Katie Rutter, and I will be your moderator for this evening. I am currently serving on the board of the League of Women Voters of the Red River Valley. This forum is being recorded for playback and will be shared on the League of Women Voters social media, website, and YouTube channels on Friday, October 9th. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan political organization. It encourages informed and active participation in government. It works to increase understanding of major public policy issues, and it influences public policy through education and advocacy. If you would like to learn more about the League, please visit our website or find us on Facebook. Before we begin, I'd like to review the rules and procedures of this forum. Questions have been submitted in advance by the public online. Questions may have been screened for clarity or combined with other similar questions, and all candidates will be given an opportunity to answer each question this evening. Each candidate will have 1.5 minutes for their opening remarks. Each will then be allowed a minute to respond to each question, and at the conclusion of the Q&A, you'll have 1 minute for your closing remarks. You'll note that we're being joined right now by Barry Amundsen with the Fargo Forum. He is a live observer tonight, so that is the other person that you see in the room. We will begin with opening statements with a submitted statement from Mr. Bell, who was not able to join us tonight, and then we'll proceed in alphabetical order. We will rotate who speaks first for each question thereafter, and I will prompt you each time when it's your turn, since we're not sitting in a line. So, from Mr. Bell, to all the Ward 3 voters and Moorhead community members, I would like to thank the League of Women Voters for putting together this candidate forum. Knowing who we are voting for when it comes to our local leaders can be difficult, but thanks to organizations like the League of Women Voters, we can all be more educated when choosing our leadership. I would like to apologize that I could not be available during this event, as I had a prior obligation that I had agreed to months ago. I'm thankful to be able to write this message in lieu of my appearance. My name is John Bell, and I'm running for Moorhead City Council to represent Ward 3, and I would appreciate your support. When I first moved to Moorhead to attend Concordia College, I knew that this city would be my new home, and I was right. After graduation, I purchased my home just a few blocks south of Woodland Park, and I became very involved in the community through my work in various ministries in the Fargo-Moorhead area, including where I am now working as the finance manager at St. John Lutheran Church. This community welcomed me with open arms and provided me with opportunities I don't believe I would have found anywhere else. When some friends in the community first approached me about running for city council, I realized that it was time for me to step up and invest in the community I love. As a member of the Moorhead City Council, I intend to focus on maintaining and adding to our wonderful park system, ensuring public transit meets the needs of the community, and that affordable housing is available to enable us to be as welcoming of a community as possible. City Council members should be focused on ensuring that services to the community are delivered in the best possible way, and that is the guiding principle I will keep with me in all my decision-making as a Moorhead City Council member. Once again, thank you to the League of Women Voters and to all those community members who are taking time to watch this event, to be as educated as possible when you are casting your ballot. When voting, please consider me, John Bell, to represent you as a Ward 3 Moorhead City Council member. I hope you all have a great rest of your night. From John Bell. So now we will start with you, Dave Anderson.
Well, good evening. Again, my name is Dave Anderson. I'm fairly new to the ranks here. I've never run for office before, but I have worked in and amongst several city halls throughout my professional career. Thank you very much to the League and to the community for this opportunity to discuss the reason why I'm here, the reason why I'm running. My family and I came to Moorhead about 16 years ago, and we rapidly made it home. It's where our kids went through middle school and high school and participated in a number of the activities there. Linda and I, as parents, got very involved in their world, and through our work, through my work with downtown revitalization and eventually with Sanford Health, we became very ingrained in the community. I guess I'm running because I feel like I have something to offer. A lot of experience in the public and private sectors, and a lot of ideas that I'd like to suggest over the course of a 4-year term. I served on the Moorhead Public Service Commission for 8 years and learned a great deal about that side of city operations. And so I'm looking forward to jumping in and seeing if I can't contribute in some positive ways.
Thank you. Steve Lindas.
Hi, my name is Steve Lindas, and I'm running for re-election to represent Ward 4 on the Moorhead City Council. So I've lived in Moorhead for almost 21 years. My wife and I raised our kids in Moorhead, and I value the opportunities that the community provides for our young people. I became involved as soon as we moved into the community, starting off coaching and then serving on boards. You tend to ingrain yourself in the community when you have kids. And that's what I did. So I'm now a professor and chair of the Department of Physics and Astronomy at Minnesota State University Moorhead, where I co-founded this sustainability program. I have the opportunity in my job to interact with, teach, as well as learn from people with diverse backgrounds. This interaction is really what prompted me to run for city council. I kept telling people that the best way to have hope is to get involved. I decided to take my own advice and ran last year to work on issues that are vitally important for all of us. I want to plan for a community not just for us, but for our kids and grandkids. I'm currently involved with working on the Moorhead Resiliency Project and a national community of practice on food systems. These both synergistically mesh with my vision of creating a welcoming community, planning for the future and climate, communication and engagement, and connecting people in parks. My core values as your council member are empathy, equity, transparency, and resiliency. And my strength is that I bring my scientific experience and training as well as a systems thinking approach to any situation. I'm running so that our Moorhead neighbors of all ages can grow and thrive. Thank you.
Thank you. Larry Seltebold.
Well, thank you to the League for hosting this forum. I'm Larry Seldrold. I'm a candidate in Ward 3. And I've lived in the south side of Moorhead basically all my life. And in that time, along the quadrants of I-94, I have seen 2 malls get built. I've seen two malls get built, torn down, rebuilt, and then basically have struggled. The schools, 2 of the schools that I attended are closed. The high school that I attended will be torn down before I reach my 50th class reunion in a few years. And so while I'm seeking to serve on the council because the constant is your house, your neighborhood. The house that, 2 houses that my father built are still there. The houses that my wife and I owned basically are still there. And so my emphasis is on making your neighborhoods great because it's tough to figure out what commerce is going to be like, but your house is going to be there. And so, so that would be my emphasis as I seek re-election, having been elected last November. Thank you.
Thank you. Dave, we'll start with you first this question because we'll consider Mr. Bell having spoken for the opening statements. So, in your opinion, what is the biggest challenge facing Moorhead right now? How would you use your position to address this challenge?
Well, I've said in a number of forums now, I believe Moorhead's greatest challenge right now is to grow. We've got a number of great things going on with growth in the community, but we need to continue to keep our foot on the gas. There are so many wonderful aspects of living in Moorhead, but without expanding our tax base, without expanding our employment opportunities and so forth, I think Moorhead's going to run into a difficult time of paying for the many amenities that we would like to enjoy as well. We have a couple of major customers of Moorhead Public Service who really kind of prop up the water rates for the community. And so, you know, that's just one example of how it is that we need to pay attention to how it is that we're going to go into the future and be able to pay for the things that we would really like to enjoy.
Thank you. Steve?
It's the fun with the mute button. So I guess I agree that the biggest challenge is really planning for the future. We have a strategic planning process that's getting rebooted. It was still delayed or sidelined due to COVID and pandemic, but we're restarting that. And that's going to give us an opportunity to basically figure out exactly what the vision is that our residents support. What businesses need is a stable playing field for which they can grow from. We also need to realize what we can control. What we control as a city is essentially quality of life indicators. And I think if you, the adage is, if you build it, they will come. If we have high quality of life, we're going to have great residents moving in, and they're going to provide the workforce for businesses, and businesses are going to come. And from that, we actually will have the tax and other investment opportunities that will support further quality of life indexes.
Thank you. Larry?
I think the biggest challenge is growing the business tax base. The residents of Moorhead are really footing the bill for a lot of things, and it would be great if we could get some more businesses in so that they can contribute to the tax base of our city. And it's we got to fill up our industrial park and do what we can to attract businesses, because the households are really footing too much of the bill. So that's the biggest challenge, I think. Yep.
Thank you. Steve, we'll start with you for this next question. It's a bit of a long one. Moorhead residents and businesses, particularly those in Ward 1, live with a very limited number of railroad underpasses, excuse me. There has been discussion of constructing additional underpasses, possibly beneath the tracks along 11th Street. Would you support their construction as a city council person? And if so, how would you work to advance their construction?
It's really an excellent question. Oh, excuse me.
I think Steve started.
I thought you said Dave. I apologize.
No worries.
Dave and Steve are really close together. But I totally agree with Dave. It's an excellent question. Supporting the 11th Street underpass is actually a priority of mine. It is there. It's a multi-jurisdictional problem. So it's complicated in the sense that it's not just a city. In fact, our city would be hard pressed to afford it on itself. So having the state and actually federal investment dollars is crucial, which means you need to have a really good relationship with both our state legislatures, but also federal. And that the project is such that I'm pretty sure it's going to get funded in the near term. In fact, it was probably going to get funded, except for there was some. There were some aspects on the federal support that didn't come through, but I'm fully expecting that it gets funded, and the state is going to come through soon.
Thank you. Larry?
Yeah, I think that is going to be funded. It's already, a lot of the stuff is already going down the pipe. It's just a matter of getting it okayed. We need to keep sending our governmental affair person, Lisa Bodie, down to St. Paul to make sure that she keeps lobbying to get some money. I think they look at that project very favorably. So, the tracks are, somebody once told me the first thing you do when you get to Moorhead is make sure you cross the tracks to get to your side of town so you don't have to wait, which I've followed that, for many years now. As soon as I get into town, if I go on Highway 10, as soon as I can, I get across the tracks or under the tracks. Yeah, I think that project is going to go forward, and I think it's going to go forward, and I support it.
Thank you so much, Dave.
Well, and I apologize again for jumping in earlier. I'm supportive of the project. I have to express some concern, and the concern has to do with the aesthetics of the project. If we've been to St. Paul and to Minneapolis as well, we've seen the caverns that have resulted from projects that are similar. And so, as we go forward with the ideas and the planning for such a project, I would like to know that we're not going to bifurcate the downtown area with this depressed roadway that would in effect divide the area into two very distinct entities in our downtown. Otherwise, the safety aspects, the ability for emergency vehicles to move back and forth, as well as the general public, make this project a very important one for the community. So I would support that, but I'd like us to be careful about how it is we design it and how we build it.
Thank you. We'll go to Larry for this next question. What is your vision for downtown Moorhead?
Well, I talked about my core is in neighborhoods, and I know that we're going to bring residents. They were trying to bring residents down there, and there's going to be another apartment going up there, and we've got some apartments. Well, we do have a lot more apartments going up. Hopefully, those people will walk around and do it. I think there's a couple of things the city has to do, and this is maybe through the parks, is we need to bring people down there. We need to have some
Looks like Larry froze up for a second. Whitney, if you wouldn't mind pausing his time, we'll try to get him back here. Well, he might have some connectivity problems. So Dave, let's go to your answer, and then we can come back to Larry when he gets back in.
Okay, this is Dave Anderson again. Downtown has been my world for a good share of my adult life. I came to the Fargo-Moorhead community working on downtowns, and downtowns for me have always been a neighborhood opportunity. It isn't that we're trying to put something back that used to be there, but that we're trying to create a new neighborhood that is going to be full of uses and really a place to live, work, shop, play, learn, and grow. Downtowns used to be those kinds of places, and in many respects, we have the opportunity right now to do this with Moorhead. I'm a founder of Downtown Moorhead Incorporated. I've served on the board since it was created, and I helped to hire Derek LaPointe to put him into the role that he's playing for us now with the community. So I'm very supportive of the revitalization of our downtown and building a grand new neighborhood for us to enjoy.
Thank you. Larry, we lost you for a second there. If you'd like to wrap up your thoughts on your vision for downtown.
Gladly. Yeah, I guess my priority would be good Wi-Fi for everybody. But I think I was saying that I think we need to, the park district needs to bring entertainment down there so people will shop. I'm hesitant because I don't want to try to foresee the future of commerce. We've seen so many businesses fail. So I don't know what the vision maybe will be like, but we need to get people down there. Yeah.
Thank you. Steve?
So I agree with both Larry and Dave that you want a downtown that's a neighborhood. And I think that, my vision of the downtown is really a mixed use space. They talk about infill. You want to have lots of residents living above businesses that are down below. We don't have to say what businesses go down there because they will come to serve the needs of the actual residents, both living downtown and those that are coming downtown. So I look at what the city brings to that, and that is we design the platform. We use the strategic planning process to get the input to find out what people really want. But for me, that's arts. That's the cool space where you can have farmers markets, where you can actually come together as a community and share. Biking and walking is critical. And in fact, the arts is the thing I always like is you walk around the corner, you walk down the street, and there's something really cool there. And that's what brings people to places. And that's what I want.
Thank you. Dave, we're back to you for a question. What ideas do you have for how we can deal with the issue of affordable housing?
That is one of those areas that I tend to answer questions that are really outside my real expertise by starting with why. I guess I would start out wanting to really understand, okay, if we have disparity in housing selection and inventories at various prices, I would first want to start out by understanding why that is, and to have a good conversation with the people that are close to this issue, whether they're providers of housing or whether they're consumers of housing, and to really understand what it is that is driving this particular question for us. And then from that conversation, move on into the possibilities and to then, similar to what Steve has pointed out, create a plan, be strategic, and do the things that we find are going to be necessary to solve this particular kind of a problem.
Thank you. Steve?
Yeah, I think affordable housing is not something that is easy, otherwise it would have been done, but it is something you need to keep a focus and an eye on. And it's something that's vital. You need to have a mixture of housing so that people in Moorhead, whatever their stage of life, can find the housing that they want. I think a lot of the work with infill can actually start to address that, so long as we keep it front and center. But a lot of it has to do with exactly what Dave said, is that you need to be having a conversation with people. You need to involve organizations, especially organizations, and talking to people that have the experience, and they can help shed light on issues and problems that you might not be aware of. And so recognizing that housing and affordability and all those issues are complex and systematic. And so to be able to address them, you really need to take a systems approach to figuring out what the problem is, and then the realm of solutions.
Thank you. Larry?
Well, one of the things that's you hear very shortly is Moorhead is going to build an apartment complex, and it's going to 40% of it has to deal with affordable housing. So that's good news. The city needs to look at possibility of those land leases where, the people don't own the land underneath it, but the house is then much more affordable. The other thing is I'd like to look at is that we give people tax breaks if they buy new, but if you remodel something, you don't get a tax break. And I think that that's something we should look at, because if you take a starter home and remodel it, you help the neighborhood, and you maybe possibly help somebody to get into a house that's more affordable. So those are the things, I think, a couple of things we should look at.
Thank you. Steve, we'll go to you for the next question. Multiple studies have established that the arts make significant contributions to a community's quality of life and economy. With this in mind, how will you advocate for the arts as a council person?
So I agree with the studies. The arts actually bring meaning in life. So I think that advocating for it is making sure that you not just attend and participate, which I would do and have done. I know Dave and I know each other from our children performing and participating in the arts, which is extremely strong in Moorhead, in the region in general. But advocating also means that you need to find funding for that. And that funding doesn't necessarily need to come whole cloth from the city, but you're finding ways to have public-private partnerships. And so finding ways to synergistically support efforts by different arts organizations in the city, and finding ways to support their mission is really crucial.
Thank you. Larry, we're back to you.
One of the committees that was assigned by the mayor after getting elected last November was the Arts and Culture Committee, and I was pretty excited to be on it. And I've even had a talk today concerning that, about a sculpture walk, or even a sculpture contest, bringing sculptures in to Moorhead, having them, either displayed. Some may be bought, some may be, anyway, it'll be a great attraction. That is one of the things, is just throwing out ideas to the Arts and Culture Committee and getting that getting things like that involved, and people on it are great. They come up, we're going to have some good ideas. So that was one idea that I have pushed, is that sculpture walk. So thank you.
Thank you. Dave?
You know, first of all, I'd like to say I really agree with the two gentlemen. They raised great points. A community that doesn't have an array of arts is a diminished community, particularly when we're competing with communities across the country for workers and for professionals and for businesses. As Steve pointed out, you know, our kids perform together. That was a part of the reason why we chose Moorhead. Moorhead is a wonderful place to bring a family if you want to be a part of a vibrant art scene. And we need to continue to nurture that and to bring that along. It requires support, and some of it is private, some of it is public. There will always be a need for support for the arts. And so I think one of our roles is going to be to really advocate for the arts and be champions for their support.
Thank you. The next question is a bit of an unusual one, and one that elicited some strong discussion from our Ward 1 candidates earlier this evening. Many cities, including neighboring Fargo and even far-flung Brooklyn, New York, make reasonable allowances to permit residents to keep chickens for the purpose of producing eggs for their households. Where do you stand on the issue of urban chickens? And it looks like, Larry, we'll start with you.
I don't have an issue with it because I have a son that lives in Colorado Springs, and his neighbors have chickens and you don't even know they're there. And they're the best tasting eggs there around. So I have no problem with chickens in town, to be honest with you.
Thank you. Dave?
I guess I would prefer chickens to turkeys, but that's a whole other topic. You know, I don't think I have a particular problem with it either. I grew up in a neighborhood in a Midwestern community where an awful lot of the folks in the neighborhood had pigeon coops. Now that's nasty, and pigeons are kind of dirty. But I guess I would agree with Larry and his observation. You know, fresh eggs right out of the chicken coop are pretty great. I don't believe it would be quite the issue that some people think it might be. It might be a good neighbor policy to be sure that folks that would like to have chickens in their backyards might discuss at least the potential for that with their neighbors and try to have some agreement among their close by neighbors.
Thank you. Steve?
Yeah, I actually think chickens is a great question to ask. I agree with both Larry and Dave. I don't have a problem with chickens. In fact, if you look at the Cass Clay Food Partners and the Cass Clay Food Commission, they have blueprints for how to go about putting and essentially ordinances in play so that we could have chickens, and reasonable chickens that both address people's and neighbors' needs and wants for fresh food and organic and healthy food, and also making sure that neighbors are not being unduly burdened. But yeah, no, chickens, I think that the whole idea of food resiliency and food sovereignty is an equity issue, and oftentimes that doesn't get brought up. And people just yell chickens, not in my backyard, and you say, well, they're not in your backyard, it's going to be in your neighbor's backyard, and they'll take care of them. And so I think it's great. And by the way, turkey eggs taste just as good as chicken eggs.
Wonderful. All right, so we have time for one last question this evening. And for this one, we'll start with you, Dave. In the era of COVID-19, we see increased isolation of Moorhead families and individuals to help prevent the virus's spread. What ideas or programs, if any, would you propose to strengthen community relationships?
Oh my, this, you know, we have all been living through this experience together, and with varying levels of impact. And I, working with Sanford, I'm on top of the details every day of what's happening in our region. I think it comes down to each of us playing our part. And mask wearing is the best first thing that any of us can do. And it's relatively simple. It's really not very costly, but it will protect one heck of a lot of lives as we buy time, basically, to get to a vaccine that is then going to help us with a more long-term solution. Wear your masks and encourage your neighbors in a friendly way to wear their masks. Let's do this together. Let's beat this thing. And then let's enjoy next year without it.
Thank you. Steve?
So I have to totally agree with Dave that mask wearing is the way to address and deal with this pandemic. The reality is this pandemic, just like the flu pandemic, will not necessarily just go away, but we're going to realize both our medicine and our technology how to deal with it effectively. And the vaccine is part of that. But the issues that people have against mask wearing and the issues potentially with vaccines and other things really have at their heart that the solution being neighborhood and kind of understanding your neighbors and being able to have relationships with them. If we don't actually talk to our neighbors, if we don't have relations with them, then they're not going to trust us. And that's critical to addressing these issues. So resiliency is a big issue, and the heart of resiliency is creating connections, and the interconnections between people is what creates your community.
Thank you. Larry?
But that's a tough one. This thing is so hard to deal with. You don't get to see your friends, or sometimes you don't get to see your family. That it's tough to do. I have had a friend who had a brother die from this. My daughter had to quarantine from it. So pushing the mask thing, I think, is important. We don't want to spread it anymore. But I really don't have a great answer as far as trying to be social, trying to get you. I don't want to say go out to eat or anything like that, but it's tough. You got to have Zoom meetings, and you got to have media things to talk to people. My service club meets, we have Zoom meetings. It's tough to be a social animal and have to sit in your house and not talk to anybody. That's tough. And so I don't know the quite answer, but you got to be creative. Thanks.
Thank you. So that concludes the question and answer portion of this forum. Thank you to all who submitted questions for our candidates. And we're going to begin with closing remarks. Thank you to our candidates for participating in this forum and for connecting with the Moorhead voters on the issues that they care about most. And to our audience that is going to be watching this at home, if you'd like to learn more about your candidates, polling places to make your voting plan, you can visit the Vote for One Voters Guide that's organized by the League of Women Voters of Minnesota at www.votefor11.org/Minnesota. And Steve, we're going to begin with you for your closing remarks.
Thank you, Katie, for moderating, and the League of Women Voters for hosting this important event. And I also want to thank Dave and well, actually all the candidates, Larry and John also, for participating and sharing ideas. This is essential to the democratic process. So Moorhead is a great place to live, work, and play. The strategic planning process that is being rebooted a clear vision of what residents want for our city. My job as your city council member will be to listen to residents and organizations and be responsive to your needs. This past year has brought to light questions of equity and resiliency, and the growing environmental and justice movements have shown how important it is to come together at all levels to find common ground to create paths forward. To do this, we need to be a cohesive and resilient community that recognizes current and future challenges faced by our city and greater region. We do this by relying upon our diverse community of talented, hardworking people. Working together, neighbor to neighbor, something we are very good at doing, by the way, will allow us to face challenges and turn them into opportunities. I would appreciate your support on November 3rd, and for more information, you can visit lindosformoorhead.com. Thank you.
Thank you. Larry?
Yes, thank you very much to the league, Patty, for moderating this. A year ago, I was elected, and now I've got to run up for re-election here, and it's been an honor to serve Ward 3. And when you get on it, you get some ideas, and those ideas can't come to fruition in 1 year. And so I would love to serve again and see if I can take some of the ideas that I have and have expressed to the staff and so on to go forward. I think these ideas will help make Moorhead a better place to live, strengthen neighborhoods, and it's been a joy and an honor to serve, and hopefully can do it for another 4 years. Thank you.
Thank you. Dave, your closing remarks?
I too would like to thank the league for hosting this event, but I would also like to thank Steve and Larry for being here to make it a lively and interesting conversation. I've learned a lot as I sat here listening to their reflections as well. It seems to me, that Moorhead has just great days ahead, and we have wonderful people that are serving in a lot of different roles on boards and commissions. I've been there myself, and I feel like I have something to offer at this point, so that we can examine the way we pay for government, the way we manage our relationship with the utility, and some of the struggles that we've had over the years with the utility. I think we have the opportunity to grow a great downtown and to develop a very dense quality neighborhood in that space. So I would appreciate your support as we look to the future. If you'd like more information about what it is that I've been chatting about, go to daveforward4.com, daveforward4.com.
Well, thanks again, once again to everybody for participating. That concludes our forum for this evening.